Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're talking about a different kind of wealth. It's not something you can count in dollars and cents, but it's built on something just as real: trust and connection. And as we're about to see, this invisible asset has some very real costs and rewards. So before we dive in, let me ask you this. What do you think is an economy's greatest asset? Is it just about having the most factories, the best tech, or a ton of money in the bank? Or could it be something deeper, something a lot more human that's actually driving everything? All right, here's our roadmap. We're going to start by looking at society's invisible balance sheet. Then we'll get into the different currencies of human connection, see the massive value of trust, and the really high cost of dishonesty. And finally, we'll talk about how we can all invest in this shared wealth. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's start with a kind of modern mystery. See, over the past 50 years or so, while our financial wealth has gone up, something else, something really vital for a healthy society, has been quietly disappearing. Research from Harvard's Robert Putnam shows a pretty startling picture. I mean, look at this. Since the middle of the 20th century, we're having friends over 45% less often. And our memberships in community groups, that's dropped by 40%. We're disconnecting from each other. Now, this isn't just about feeling a little more isolated. Sociologists and economists have a name for this. It's a loss of our social capital. You can think of it like the collective value that's baked into our relationships and our communities. It's the trust that makes everything work. And we've been draining that account without even noticing. So, if we are losing this social capital, what is it really? What's it made of? To get our heads around this invisible kind of wealth, we have to think bigger than just money and machines when we talk about capital. Imagine a healthy, thriving society as a sturdy, four-legged stool. Now, one leg is physical capital. That's the easy stuff, tools and buildings. But the other three legs, those are all about us. Human, social, and even spiritual capital. And if any one of those is short, the whole thing gets pretty wobbly. So the first of these people-focused assets is one you've probably heard of: human capital. It's basically all of our skills, our knowledge, our health. It's the value we build up inside ourselves through training and just plain living. And that's what makes us productive. And hey, this isn't some newfangled idea. Way back when, Adam Smith, the father of modern economics, he totally got this. He called our skills and abilities a kind of fixed capital, something that lives inside a person but benefits all of society. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Social capital kind of comes in two flavors. You've got bonding capital, which is the trust that links you to people who are just like you. That's the easy stuff. The real challenge and the true test of a trustworthy society is building bridging capital, creating trust with people who are different from you. And that idea of building trust far and wide brings us to this powerful and honestly often forgotten form of capital. It's one that completely changes the game, shifting the goal from just individual gain to thinking about our shared well-being. Research on social enterprises has a great way of putting this. They define spiritual capital not as wealth you try to pile up for yourself, but as the deep-down knowledge and values that make you want to give, to share, and to help build a better world. It's the why behind honesty. It's the motivation to be a trustworthy person. So you see, this is a totally different mindset. Traditional capital is all about accumulation, getting more for me. But spiritual capital runs on a whole different logic. It's about giving, sharing, and redistributing. It's a powerful force that pushes back against things like massive wealth gaps by building a culture of integrity and shared responsibility. Okay, so this all sounds really nice, right? But let's be real. Does all this intangible stuff, this wealth of trust and purpose, does it actually do anything? Does it have a real impact on our lives and the economy? Well, the answer seems to be a big yes. A recent Gallup poll found something pretty amazing. 6 out of 10 Americans say their faith or spirituality is involved in every part of their life. And here's the kicker. They believe it has a direct impact not just on their own success, but on the economic health of the whole country. And this isn't just some abstract belief. It leads to real-world action. It's the fuel for social enterprises that are powered by this spiritual capital. When people are united by a trustworthy sense of purpose, they come up with amazing solutions to tough social problems. It proves that being purpose-driven can be incredibly productive.
But, and this is a huge but, here's the flip side. What happens when the very institutions we build on trust and good intentions start to go wrong? What's the real cost when that foundation of honesty and faithfulness starts to crumble into dishonesty and corruption?
The history of Islamic charitable trusts, called waqfs, gives us a pretty stark warning. For centuries, these trusts did incredible things for society, all built on the spiritual capital of personal piety. But their rules were set in stone. They couldn't adapt, and that inflexibility became their undoing, opening the door for corruption and stagnation. It's a powerful lesson. Even a system built on trust can be destroyed when dishonesty and rigidity take over from the inside. So, here's the bottom line. Being honest and having good intentions is just the beginning. It's not enough. For trust to last, the systems we create have to be trustworthy too. They need to be flexible and accountable. The moment they become rigid and corrupt, they betray the very trust they were built on. Which brings us to what might be the most important question of all. If we know how valuable trust is, and we know how devastating it is to lose it, how do we actually build more of this invisible wealth in our society right now? Well, the answer isn't about getting more money in the bank. It's about making a real, deliberate investment in the human skills that are the literal building blocks of trust and honesty. And this is where something called social and emotional learning, or SEL, comes into play. You can think of SEL as basically a curriculum for trustworthiness. It's all about developing those core skills like empathy, collaboration, being self-aware, and making responsible choices. These aren't soft skills. They're the absolute essentials for how we build and keep trust with each other. By focusing on these abilities in our schools, our workplaces, everywhere, we're making a direct investment in our human, our social, and our spiritual capital. We are literally teaching the how-to behind honesty and integrity, and that's how you turn individual potential into the shared prosperity that only a high-trust society can really have. So, we'll leave you with a final thought. If trust, honesty, and connection are a real form of currency, maybe it's time we all did an audit of our accounts. Maybe the true measure of our wealth isn't what's in our wallets, but in the strength of our bonds with each other. So, how rich are we, really?